I used to think God was waiting for me at church on Sundays. Then one morning, stuck in gridlocked traffic, my soul screaming with impatience, I realized he was sitting right beside me in the passenger seat. What happened next completely transformed how I view my daily commute, and might just change yours too. We all do it. Spend countless hours traveling between home and work, earbuds in, minds elsewhere, counting minutes until we arrive somewhere else. I treated my commute like spiritual, dead time, a necessary void between the important parts of my day. But what if these seemingly wasted moments are actually sacred ground? What if God speaks loudest when we're caught between destinations? The revelation started on a Tuesday. Bumper-to-bumper traffic stretched before me like an endless desert. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel as I watched the minutes tick by, late again. A driver cut me off and my blood pressure spiked. I muttered words I wouldn't say in church. The day had barely begun and I was already depleted. How many hours of my life would I waste like this, suspended between where I'd been and where I needed to be? But then something strange happened. A question formed in my mind. What if this isn't an interruption to my life, but an invitation from God? Isaiah 40:31 says, "Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength." We usually apply this to big spiritual moments, but what about literal waiting, in traffic, in line, on hold? I began to wonder what would happen if I stopped fighting these in-between spaces and started seeing them as divine appointments. Could my commute actually be holy ground? The question nagged at me for days, challenging everything I thought about God's presence in my everyday life. I decided to try an experiment. The next morning, instead of firing up my usual podcast, I drove in silence. Instead of mentally rehearsing work presentations, I paid attention to the sunrise painting the sky, to the faces in cars around me, each person with their own story, their own struggles, their own destination. I began to pray for them, the woman applying makeup at the stoplight, the man singing along to music I couldn't hear, the construction worker directing traffic. And something unexpected happened. My perspective shifted. My commute hadn't changed, but I had. Ephesians 5:15-16 tells us to make the most of every opportunity. I'd read that verse 100 times, but never applied it to stop-and-go traffic. What if these mundane moments weren't obstacles to overcome, but opportunities to embrace? What if God wasn't waiting for me at my destination, but traveling alongside me in the journey? The possibility both comforted and convicted me. Tone shifts, becomes more reflective. Then came the morning that changed everything. Pouring rain, an accident ahead. Traffic completely stopped. In the old days, this would have sent me spiraling into frustration. Instead, I found myself strangely at peace. That's when it hit me. The profound truth that had been there all along. We spend our lives rushing from point A to point B, but what if the space between is where the real living happens? What if God is less concerned with our destinations and more interested in who we become along the way? Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." The pattern of this world says faster is better, waiting is wasting, and the journey is just an obstacle to the destination. But God's economy is different. In His hands, traffic jams become prayer closets, commutes become cathedrals, red lights become invitations to breathe deeply and remember whose we are. I began to see my fellow commuters differently, not as competitors for lane space, but as fellow travelers on a spiritual journey. The man who cut me off? Perhaps he's rushing to a hospital. The slow driver in the left lane? Maybe she just received devastating news. My commute became a daily reminder of our shared humanity and God's presence in all of it. And something beautiful happened. I started arriving at work more centered, more present, more alive. Now I keep a special playlist for my commute, songs that remind me of God's presence. I pray specifically for the neighborhoods I drive through. I practice gratitude instead of impatience. And on the hardest days, when traffic is at its worst, I remember Jesus' words, "I am with you always, even to the end of the age, even in rush hour, even in standstill traffic, even in the ordinary Tuesday commute." So tomorrow, when you start your engine and join the stream of headlights and taillights, remember, you're not just driving to work, you're on holy ground. God isn't waiting for you at your destination. He's riding shotgun, using your commute to whisper truths your busy life might otherwise drown out. The question is, are you listening? Because the most important journey isn't the one that moves you from home to office and back again. It's the one that moves your heart closer to His, and that journey can happen anywhere, even in traffic. Has God ever spoken to you during your commute? Share in the comments below. If this message helped you, hit subscribe and the notification bell for more God in daily life scenarios. Your journey matters, not just where you're going, but who you're becoming along the way.